Welcome to Daily Tips that may or may not help you. My name is Ariel Nissenblatt. This is a show in which we share a tip every single day. Sometimes the tip will be helpful, sometimes it won't be helpful. Usually my co-host is Ned Donovan. Ned is not here today, but we have a special guest, and it is our guest tipper of the month of June. His name is Zak Rosen. Among other things that we will find out about, he hosts a podcast called Weirdly Helpful. So I'm very excited to talk to him today about advice and about things that are weirdly helpful, how his show came to be, the lessons that he's learned from it, and a lot more. Tippendales, make sure that you are following us on social media and, of course, that you have pressed follow or subscribe on the podcast app of your choice so that you hear all of Zak's tips throughout the month. Zak, welcome to the show. How are you today? I would like to start with this question. How long have you been in the advice game?
6 years and 2 months.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's 10,000 hours, right?
Yeah, it's
You're
a
an
lot.
expert.
It's like, for Weirdly Helpful, it used to be daily, which you know something about. So I've made over 700 episodes at this point.
That's nuts. Zak, who are you? What is your relationship to advice? Where in the world are you? And also, how do we know each other? I guess I could talk about that, but I'd love to hear from you too.
Yeah. Well, it's impossible not to know you if you're in the podcast world because you are a thought leader in our industry. And so I think maybe I was a guest curator on your newsletter during COVID at some point. And that was the initial point of connection. We met in 3D for the first time earlier this year at On Air Fest. Yeah, we had never met before.
No way.
Yeah, we had talked before. I mean, certainly over email.
Definitely.
But yeah, so that's how I know you.
Wow. How do you know yourself? Like, what do you do?
That's really deep. I have to go lay down. How do I know myself? So I live in Detroit. I am a freelance podcast maker. I spent the first decade plus of my career in public radio as a reporter, as a producer. I worked on that old NPR show back in the late aughts called State of the Reunion, which Al Letson started.
Wow.
That was his foray into public radio. And before that, I was at Detroit Public Radio, spent time at Michigan Radio. And yeah, I mean, up until, in my experience, 2017, the only way to kind of make a living in creative audio storytelling was public radio. And then once podcasts became a thing, I started making those, and I worked for and with different organizations and nonprofits and individuals and collectives, and have been making podcasts for a living now since 2017.
Wow.
And Weirdly Helpful is one of the 4 shows that I currently work on.
Tell us about the others. You have your own show, that's Weirdly Helpful, and then you do some client work. Is that what you're referring to?
Yeah, I do. Well, I host the parenting show with 2 other parents, 2 moms. It's called Care and Feeding. It used to be called Mom and Dad Are Fighting, but they changed the title a year or 2 ago. I've been doing that for 4 years, and so that's twice a week. And I just host that. I don't produce or edit that, which is...
You just show up.
I just show up with a little bit of prep, which is really nice. I mean, shout out to all the producers out there who make podcasts happen, because without them, these hosts are nothing. So I do that. And then I started a show with my 2 dear friends and sisters called How to Survive the End of the World. It's hosted by Adrienne Marie Brown and Autumn Brown. And it's a chat show. A lot of the episodes are just the 2 of them, but a lot of them are with guests. And they're facilitators and authors and artists. And that's, of everything I've ever worked on, that show by far gets the most love from listeners than anything I've ever experienced. It's unbelievable.
Do you have a sense of why? Is it because of the topic? Is it because of the host dynamic?
It's the hosts. Yeah. I mean, Adrienne and Autumn are now both famous, but Adrienne has been, in the last 10 years, her star has been rising a lot, not because she's an influencer or anything, but because she's been writing these books that people have really connected to: Emergent Strategy, Pleasure Activism, Holding Change. And yeah, she's just a real dynamo, and the dynamic that she has with her sister is so real and intimate and hilarious and deep and wise, and people really look to them as they would be so embarrassed if and would never identify as this, but I feel like people think of them as kind of oracles. And so that's three. And then I work on another show called Becoming the Vision with these two amazing people who work in the philanthropy and nonprofit space, Dr. Trinell Torian and Dr. Shara Reed, and they talk to folks in philanthropy and are talking about ways to freedom dream and kind of show up to work as your entire self, and ask big questions about, like, what's philanthropy doing wrong, and what could it be doing so much better. And so those last two I mentioned, How to Survive the End of the World and Becoming the Vision, I'm the editor and producer on both of those.
We're going to get more into some of your tips throughout this conversation and throughout the month. So definitely, listeners, make sure to tune in every Wednesday for Zak's tips. But first, you just talked about all of the things that you do creatively. I bet there are more, but those are the audio things that you do creatively. Do you have any tips for people interested in working in audio or working in the creative space in general?
Sure. So the thing that I love about audio, and the thing that made me step into it in the first place, was I was in college and I honestly could not imagine getting a job. I was like, I don't want to
anything.
Do anything that's gonna suck my soul away. Like, what am I gonna do? What am I gonna do? And I thought, okay, I'm not like, I love literature and movies and music, but I thought to myself, like, I don't have a novel in me. I'm not gonna be a filmmaker. Like, you need to raise like $1 million and hire like hundreds of people. Like, that's impossible. I can't put out an album. Like, I can barely play the guitar. But I can talk to people. I love talking to people, actually. And the idea that I could just get, at that time, a mini disc player and a microphone from the local college station and just go out and start making stories and just teaching myself was so much more within grasp than anything else I could imagine doing. And that led to, me volunteering at the student run station and eventually internship at Detroit Public Radio, which led me to my first job in 2006.
So would you say it's half make it your business to have this thing happen because you need to do it? There's like something in you that you need to do it, and then half hustle, luck?
Yeah.
Where does it fall there?
Like, it's so much harder to get a job. There was a time, right, in the last, like, there was like a sweet spot in podcasting between, I don't know, 2018 and like 2022, where, like, if you had the skills, you could just get a staff job at one of these big companies as a producer or editor. Those jobs are a lot fewer and far between now. And so what you can do, though, and which is what we know that a lot of people are doing this with podcasts, is you can start something, you can make something while having a day job. You can be a waiter and a podcaster. Yeah. You can be, a waiter and a janitor. And, like, actually the experiences that you're going to have outside the media world, like just in day-to-day life, are going to inform the kinds of stories you want to tell, potentially. And so it's not like it's actually a good thing to be getting to be out in the world.
I agree. And I think there used to be a lot more jobs, but that also meant that you didn't necessarily get to make what you wanted to make. You worked on a program, or you worked on marketing at a public radio station or public relations or something like that. And for me, the hope in the podcast space, but also in the creator space in general, is you get to make what you want. Independent creators will continue making stuff because it's on your own accord. You can put whatever you want onto the podcast airwaves, the YouTube space as well. You can do what you want. There's no network regulating you.
Exactly. Yeah, it's a great thing. And, like, I am, at a family dinner, or I am at a stoplight, or I am at the DMV, and it's like, inevitably, I'm just thinking about my show. I'm like, who should I try to get on? What do I want to say this week?
It's and so creative.
It's just so fun. And imposing a deadline on yourself, I'll speak for myself, imposing a deadline on myself is the only way I can get anything done. If you just say, like, I am going to wait to release this until it's perfect, you won't release it. And so give yourself a deadline, and especially a regular deadline, and you are going to force yourself to come up with something new every week or every month or whatever your cadence becomes.
Let's get into your deadlines for your show. For the main show that I know you for, which is Weirdly Helpful, I first discovered it as the Best Advice Show. It was a daily show. How did you do that?
I had support at the time. When I started that show in 2020, I had one of those corporate podcast jobs that I was telling you about that don't really exist anymore. I was working for a company helping. It was a company that owned a bunch of TV stations, and they wanted me to help their TV reporters make podcasts. So I was doing that while also, and they were also asking for a daily show because at the time everyone was like, we need to do the daily. Like, how hard could that be? And I was like, well, they have like 40 people on their staff. We can't do that. And so I was like, well, I can do it daily, but it's going to be this. And the conceit was basically the daily tips, like very short. When I started the show, it was 1 to 3 minutes long, with people giving me the best advice that they had heard or that they knew of. Yeah. I changed the name of the show recently, but yeah, for the first several hundred episodes up until late 2025, it was the Best Advice Show. And then after I lost that job, the corporate job, because it's really hard making money from podcasts. I'm not sure if you know that. They let me keep the feed and the IP, and I needed to hustle and get some other freelance gigs going, and also it was just becoming too much of a grind for me to do daily, and so that I switched to twice a week at some point, and then in the last couple of years switched to once a week, and now the episodes are a little bit meatier. Now they're like 10 to 15 minutes and come out once a week.
They're definitely meatier. I think even when you were doing the show daily, they weren't just you speaking to the camera. It was
always with a guest. It was always sound designed and always with a guest. Yeah, because that's my favorite part.
I imagine comes from your background in public radio, making radio, and the desire to like bring the story out.
Definitely. Yeah.
Can you give us an example, or can you give us a piece of advice from the Best Advice Show that still sticks with you?
I talked to one of my favorite songwriters when I was living in Amsterdam last year. She was passing through with her band. Her name's Cassandra Jenkins. And what she does before every live show is she writes out what she calls a cosmic guest list. She got this idea from her friend. But the people on the cosmic guest lists are people who she wishes were in the audience that night. Maybe her dead relatives, maybe her cat, maybe her best friend who was going to come to the show, but, they couldn't find a babysitter at the last minute. Like, if you're thinking about, presenting to the board at your company, or, giving your first speech at your, best friend's wedding, and you're kind of nervous about speaking to a group, a group of people who you don't know, like, make a cosmic guest list and imagine those people like in the back cheering you on and, giving you some confidence that you need.
That's awesome.
I love that one. Yeah.
That's really cool.
The cosmic guest list.
It's like the positive version of picture the audience in their underwear.
Yes, exactly. I think this is a lot more helpful.
I want to tell you, I listened to your show recently and heard a tip on it that I have not only tried, used, think about a lot, but I've also told other people about it.
Ooh.
And they've started doing it. And the tip is, when you feel like you're at a crossroads, or if you feel like you want to make a decision, but you don't know how you're going to get to that decision, just walk over a bridge. And when I first heard this, I was like, when am I going to walk over a bridge? Like, the Brooklyn Bridge is really long. The Manhattan Bridge is really long.
Yeah.
Then I realized I live near the Gowanus Canal.
There you
and
go.
I can just walk over that bridge.
And that's helped you.
It's easier than you think. Look, did it make me solve the thing that I was thinking about? Not necessarily, but it did feel good to get outside.
Yes.
And I love bridges, and I love like civic structures. So I was just like happy to be a part of it.
Yeah.
And
I'm so glad. Yeah. I think there's something about like moving from one thing to another, like actually embodying that or literalizing it with the bridge. Like, you're leaving this thing, and now you're going forth to somewhere else. And that actually, it comes from this woman who identifies as a witch. And down in Florida, she gave me some great advice. There was that one, and then the one that I really loved. Sometimes people give me a couple pointers or a couple ideas or rituals on each episode. And so she gave me the bridge one, and also, if you think about what she calls the psychic trespassers in your life, like the people in your head who you're like performing for. Maybe it's the teacher who didn't believe in you, or your parent who never really understood who you are, like, or the politician who you just like are following out of rage on social media. Like, think about them, get out a Sharpie or any marker, write their name on a piece of toilet paper, and then you flush that shit down the toilet.
Wow.
Flush your psychic trespasser down the toilet, which again is this literal, this literalizing thing that actually might help you move through
I might do
some of
that
your rage.
today. I might do that now.
Do it.
That's awesome.
Yeah, I've done it before. It's really fun.
The rest of the tips that you're sharing throughout this month, how did you compile this list?
Well, the thing that I love about making my show, and the thing that listeners tell me they like, is that they'd never know what's coming.
Yeah.
In a given week. So, one week it might be like financial stuff, and the next week it might be, advice for accessing your creativity. And the next week it might be something, really practical about like stretching before bed. So I just like that kind of the random kind of stochastic nature. And I wanted to offer some breadth about like what you might find on Weirdly Helpful.
What's great about Weirdly Helpful, and I think also Daily Tips and a bunch of other shows that are able to do the following, is that each episode is different, right? So you're not necessarily going to get people coming to the show who like need business advice or who need relationship advice. You're going to get people coming to the show who want to hear from you and are curious about how you synthesize that advice.
Yes, that's right.
So that's an interesting piece. How did you hone your voice over time?
Man, I even go back and listen to shows from a couple of years ago, and I sound different. So I feel like every episode, there's a little bit more clarity, a little bit more confidence. But it's, like I mentioned, like I've been now making stuff since I made my first story in like 2004.
Wow. What was that about?
Do you know Found Magazine?
No.
It's this really cool magazine, this kind of bespoke artisanal publication that this guy, Davey Rothbart, who's been on This American Life a bunch of times, he's like a humorist and writer and filmmaker, but he started this magazine where he would find stuff on the street, like a stomped on love letter, or, a movie ticket stub, or just any piece of trash that he would find, and then he would kind of collage it, and he turned it into Found Magazine.
Cool.
And he was coming through town where I was going to college to share. He would do these tours where he would share like some of his favorite finds. And I was like, oh, that sounds cool. Maybe I can do a story about him coming to town. And so I went and rented out the mini disc player from my college radio station. And I just recorded that event. I was way too nervous to even go up and interview him. Like I didn't know how that would work. So I just like put the microphone on a bookshelf. And then I turned that into like a 4-minute story for the college radio station. And at that time, I didn't know the difference between volume and fade. And so like the whole story was like going back and forth between like the left and right channel in my headphones. I had no idea what I was doing.
But that's a sonic artsy choice.
It was not a choice.
It was not at the
time. It was just like, I think this is what you do. And that's what I've been doing ever since. Just like every story, you're figuring it out. And yet, every story, every episode, you're also starting from scratch. So you have a foundation of skills, but still, sometimes it's Tuesday afternoon and I release on Wednesdays and I'm scratching my head like, I don't really have anything good. What am I going to do? And I don't know if that goes away.
Sometimes putting something out is better than not putting something out when it comes to like feeding the content beast. But obviously we wish we didn't have to live life like that.
Yeah. And it doesn't mean you have to like put something out forever. It doesn't mean that you shouldn't take breaks. But it means that like if you're noticing that you're actually not putting anything out, put something out. And this actually reminds me, there was a piece of advice on my show. My friend Laura Herberg, who's a great reporter, she said the only way she can clean her house is if she sends out invites for a party like 2 weeks from then.
Wow.
And she'll only clean up, right, if she knows people are coming.
That's great.
And so similarly, like, unless I have a deadline, I'm not going to release something. And you might be the same way. And it doesn't even mean you have to like start a podcast. You could even like invite your friends over and play them something that you're working on. You know what I mean? Just like show someone something.
Yeah, it definitely doesn't have to be perfect. It can be just that the deadline itself, it keeps your rhythm going. It gives you a schedule.
100%.
It allows you to plan around that as like the central piece.
Yes.
Are you somebody who takes a lot of the tips and implements a lot of the tips? Like what percentage
That's a great
tips
question.
given to you would you say that you try and then retain?
I try a bunch. I retain, because I recall pretty much every episode.
Well,
Because if you edit it, right, like if you're spending hours on an
etches into
edit,
the brain.
it etches into your brain. But actually retained and integrated into my life, of the 700, I would say maybe like 1% or something, if that.
Yeah.
So I just like them. I like advice as being like a vehicle to get to know someone. I think it's like you're revealing something intimate about yourself when you're telling me something weirdly helpful that you do.
Yeah.
Like it's intimate for me to know that this person out in Massachusetts is humming in an elevator every time they step in one. It's intimate when someone reveals to me that every morning they lather up soap on their belly and draw a piece of pizza or a smiley face on it to kind of access some early morning joy. Shower belly from your podcast sister, Lauren Purcell.
That's right.
Like that's really intimate.
Yeah.
And that's what I'm interested in podcasting, is kind of just these small, intimate moments.
It's advice as a vehicle for getting to know you, conversations.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's great.
Yeah.
Yeah. It doesn't always have to be practical to still be helpful. It doesn't always have to be spoon-fed to the listener as here's the advice that we hope that you take. And
yeah.
I mean, I'm taking this as advice right now because our show and my life in general, I want you to take something practical away from this conversation, from this event that I'm speaking at, from this. And I do think that that's important, especially if people are paying money to learn something specific and they don't want, something ethereal. But it's also okay to give people the framework to then make the decisions for themselves.
Yeah. Yeah. And also just like thinking about you in the context of your show and your career. Like I saw you and Lauren present at on Airfest, and like the thing that I took away more than the stuff that you told us or explained to us was just like, I just laughed a lot. Like you two just made me, you delighted me.
Good.
And that's like what I'm most
that's
after
a takeaway
with my
too.
show. It's just like, I want to delight people.
Yeah. Your KPI is delight.
Yes.
Line go up.
For sure.
That's great. Well, Zak, you are going to be with us throughout the month, sharing advice every Wednesday as our guest tipper. Listeners, if you missed the first tip of the month, go back and listen to it. It's a great tip about howling and really just feeling your feelings and then letting them out, maybe doing that on a regular basis. We'll get into all of that. And for the rest of the month, we've got some great tips. Zak obviously comes from a world where he is constantly hearing about helpful advice, and some of that is weirdly helpful, and some of that is straight up helpful, just like daily tips that may or may not help you, may or may not help you. Zak, you have been a lovely guest, and I'm looking forward to the Tippendales hearing the rest of your tips throughout the month. Where can people find you, and what is one call to action that you have from them about your show? Like, do you want them to leave a voice note? Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, first of all, I feel like it would be a really fun live event to have the Tippendales and the Weird Helpers at like a roller rink or something.
I love that.
So maybe we can schedule that in the future. But in the meantime, I release episodes at Weirdly Helpful every Wednesday. And my favorite thing in the world is to get a voicemail from listeners telling me something that they do that's weirdly helpful. So you can do that. Like you might be listening to this and just think about like, what are the strange little things you do when no one's around that help you get through your day? And then call me and tell me about them at 844-935-2378. And you'll make my day.
Amazing. I know we need to close the episode out, but I got to tell you this.
Tell me.
I am on Threads. I've been spending some time on Threads lately, and I follow a bunch of accounts that do roundups of advice that helps your life. Like a pretty typical post will be like, hey, no gatekeeping. What's something that helps your life? And obviously these are engagement bait, but people share some really cool things.
Yeah.
And one of them that has been weirdly helpful to me is if you're having trouble starting a task, and I have a lot of trouble starting tasks, even if I like them once I get started, set a timer for 2 minutes. Do it for 2 minutes. You're obviously going to end up doing it for more than 2 minutes.
Yep.
But the starting of the timer really helped me. Weirdly helpful.
That's great. Do you do the timer on your phone?
Yeah.
Okay. That's really good.
First I say 2 more minutes. And then I'm like, you know what? Let me raise this up to 7 and then 10. And then keep going from there.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that. I like that a lot. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you, Zach. And
you're welcome.
Thank you, listeners. And Ned and I will be back this week with tips that may or may not help you. Until then, feel free to say hello to us by going to dailytipspodcast.com and leaving your tip, leaving the thing that's helpful to you. And also listen to Zach's show, because we are siblings in advice. Bye.
Appreciate you.